Tonight, our first look at two suspect vehicles involved in the Stockton mass shooting from late November, released today by the San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office. Vehicle number one, you'll see it here, is a white car, and the second is a silver car. No further information has been released about these suspects other than that deputies are working to track down these vehicles that you see here on your screen. The San Joaquin County Sheriff's Office asking anyone who recognizes either car to contact them right away. These are the four victims in that mass shooting at a toddler's birthday party on November 29th. 21-year-old Susano Archuleta, 14-year-old Amari Peterson, 8-year-old Maya Lupian, and 8-year-old Journey Rose. And today,
on November 29th, 2025, in Stockton, California, parents brought their children to what should have been a joyful celebration. It was a little girl's birthday party at the Monkey Space Event Hall. There were balloons, decorations, probably cake waiting to be cut. Kids running around playing, families laughing together. And then, in a matter of seconds, that joy turned into absolute horror. Multiple gunmen walked in wearing dark clothing and face coverings. They didn't hesitate. They opened fire. Over 50 shots rang out from at least 5 different weapons. When the shooting finally stopped, 4 people were dead. 3 of them were children. 13 others were wounded, fighting for their lives. If this story disturbs you as much as it disturbs us, please hit that like button and subscribe to Midnight Case Files. Click that bell icon so you never miss an update on cases like this one, because we need to keep talking about these victims. We need to keep demanding justice for them. Let me tell you about the people who lost their lives that day. Maya Lupian was only 8 years old. Journey Rose Rio Tudor Guerrero, also 8, had her whole life ahead of her. Amari Peterson was 14, still just a kid trying to figure out the world. And Susano Archuleta, 21 years old, probably thought he was just going to a child's birthday party, somewhere safe. None of them deserved what happened. 17 people were shot in total. Think about that for a second. 17 people at a child's birthday party. Some of those injured were kids too. One 9-year-old girl was shot in the head, but somehow survived. Can you imagine what that family went through? What that little girl is going through now? The San Joaquin County Sheriff, Patrick Withrow, said something that stuck with me. He said the shooters walked into this area and were probably looking for somebody in particular. This wasn't random. These gunmen came to that party with a target in mind. They knew someone specific would be there. But here's what makes this even more sickening. They didn't care who else got in the way. They didn't care that there were children everywhere. They fired over 50 rounds into a crowd of families. So who were they looking for? That's where this case gets complicated and honestly pretty dark. Investigators found out that there were known gang members at this party. The birthday girl's father, Luciano Guerrero, is a Stockton-based rapper. After the shooting, he was actually arrested. Why? Because he violated his parole by being in contact with gang members at his own daughter's party.
Again, that shooting took place inside a building that was hosting a child's birthday party on Saturday. Today, we're hearing different accounts from both the landlord and the tenant about how that space was being used. The landlord of the building on Lucille Avenue says the space was never meant to be a banquet hall or to host large events.
It's not an event center. This is more like a kind of studio for other kind of, the video shoot or and a kind of for other purpose. Somehow the tenant used for a different purpose without any permission.
ABC 10 spoke to that tenant today. He did not want to be identified, but he says the landlord knew about the party and that they spoke about the event just hours before the shooting happened. We did reach out to San Joaquin County officials who say a permit would have been required for an event there. They say no recent permits were issued or applied for by the tenant or the landlord at that address. The county says they have not had any issues in the recent past at that location. We have reached back out to the landlord. Stay with us for updates.
There was also another rapper there that night, someone pretty well known in Stockton. His name is MB Nell. According to reports, he was actually shot during the attack and immediately went into hiding afterward. Now, I'm not saying he was the target, but you have to wonder, right? Why would a rapper go into hiding unless he believed someone was specifically after him? The FBI, ATF, Stockton Police, and the U.S. Attorney's Office all came together on this investigation. When you see that many agencies involved, you know this is serious. They determined that multiple gang sets were present at the time of the shooting. Multiple. That means different gangs, possibly rivals, all in one place at a kid's birthday party. But here's what keeps me up at night about this case. Sheriff Withrow said they don't actually know if gang activity was the motive. They know gang members were there. They know this was targeted, but they can't confirm why this happened. Was it gang retaliation? Was someone trying to send a message? Or was this about something else entirely? Let's talk about the evidence for a minute, because this is where things get really interesting. 50 shell casings were found at the scene. 5 different firearms were used. The shooters wore face coverings and dark clothing, which makes identifying them incredibly difficult. But here's something wild. Investigators found firearms on the roof of the venue. On the roof. They haven't determined yet if those weapons were actually used in the attack, or if someone ditched them there afterward. Think about the level of planning that suggests. These weren't just random shooters who showed up on impulse. Someone knew about this party. Someone knew who would be there. And they came prepared with multiple weapons and multiple shooters. Now we're almost 2 months out from this tragedy, and you know what? Nobody has been arrested for the actual shooting. Not one person. On January 17th, just a few days ago, the sheriff's office finally released surveillance photos showing 2 vehicles they believe were involved. A white car and a silver car. But they didn't provide license plate numbers. They didn't provide locations where these photos were taken. Just 2 cars that could be anywhere. There's a $130,000 reward being offered for information. That's a substantial amount of money. But still, nobody's talking. In communities like this, there's often a code of silence. People are either too scared to come forward, or they don't trust law enforcement enough to help. And I get it. I understand why people in these neighborhoods feel that way.
Stockton mass shooting survivors calling out Governor Newsom today at the Capitol, demanding dollars to help their community heal. That shooting, November 29th, killed 4 people, as you'll remember, including 3, and wounding more than a dozen others after bullets went flying at a toddler's birthday party.
Your reporter Tori Apodaca joins us live from the Capitol, getting answers on what they want, Tori, after that tragic night in Stockton.
Marley, Ashley, safety, stability, and healing, it's what these victims of gun violence want. They say it won't come without funding from lawmakers.
Stockton has cried long enough. Stockton has bled long enough. Stockton has buried enough sons and daughters, but today Stockton speaks.
Speaking for the 4 victims who no longer can. The ones who lost their lives when bullets went flying at a 2-year-old's birthday party. Over 100 others who were there, now living with that trauma, asking for change, not condolences.
My son is gone and he's never coming back, and it's for no reason.
Patrick Peterson is the father of the straight-A student and star athlete, 14-year-old Amari Peterson, who was killed in the mass shooting.
You know, this is just a nightmare for me, and I can't believe this is actually happening to me.
Losing his son in a moment.
For years, California has failed crime victims, especially Black, brown, and those who live in underserved communities like Stockton.
Community advocates asking Governor Gavin Newsom's budget for 3 things. Fund flexible cash assistance program for survivors that were cut last year. Fund a trauma recovery center for Stockton where people 21 and younger can get free therapy for up to a year. And fund free mental health services for the children who witness gun violence.
It's not an act of radicalism to look after those that suffer from senseless gun violence.
The governor's office tells us it's in the early stages of this year's budget process, but it's proud of its investment over the years in Stockton, offering up to $70,000 to the victims of violent crimes through the California Victim Compensation Board, and giving $8.7 million to the city since 2018 through the California Violence Intervention Program.
Lopsided investments produce lopsided results.
The dollars have not been enough to prevent these families' bloodshed and grief.
We're not whispering, we're not negotiating, we're not begging.
Hoping their voices won't fall on deaf ears.
We are demanding what is right, what is moral, and what is overdue.
Yeah, those community advocates really wanting to keep this momentum going. After the press conference, they went into lawmakers' offices to share their stories, and they won't be giving up anytime soon.
But think about those 3 children who died. Think about their families who will never get to see them grow up, graduate, fall in love, have families of their own. Someone out there knows something. Someone saw those cars. Someone heard people talking about this before or after it happened. And here's something that makes this even more chilling. Remember that 9-year-old girl I mentioned who got shot in the head, but survived? Her father's name was Emmanuel Lopez. He was at the party that night, too. On December 28th, less than a month after his daughter nearly died at that birthday party, Emmanuel was shot and killed in nearby Lodi. The authorities say there's no indication the two shootings are connected, but come on. You have to ask yourself, is that really just a coincidence? A man survives a mass shooting where his daughter is critically injured, and then he's murdered weeks later? Sheriff Withrow warned everyone that this would be a long investigation. He said it could take months to complete. And I believe him. When you have multiple shooters, 5 different weapons, potential gang involvement, and a community that's understandably terrified to speak up, building a case becomes incredibly complex. But here's what bothers me most about all of this. Stockton already struggles with violent crime. This community has been through so much. The people living there are tired. They're scared. They want safety for their children. And what happened on November 29th just reinforced every fear they have about letting their kids go to parties, go to parks, just be kids. So let me ask you something, and I really want you to think about this. What kind of person walks into a room full of children and opens fire? What goes through someone's mind when they pull that trigger knowing there are 8-year-olds nearby? How does someone justify that to themselves? Because that's what keeps me coming back to this case. The psychology of it. These shooters made a choice. They chose their target, sure. But they also chose to pursue that target in a room full of innocent people. They chose not to wait for another opportunity. They chose violence over everything else, including the lives of children who had nothing to do with whatever beef or rivalry or grudge they were acting on. And if you're someone who knows something about this case, I want you to ask yourself another question. Can you live with staying silent? Can you wake up every day knowing you could help bring justice to Maya, Journey, Amari, and Susano? Because your information, even if it seems small or insignificant to you, might be the piece investigators need to solve this. If this case affected you, if you want to see justice for these victims, hit that subscribe button right now. Join the Midnight Case Files community where we don't let these stories fade away. Share this video. Talk about this case. Keep these names alive. Maya Lupian, Journey Rose Rio Tudor Guerrero, Amari Peterson, Susano Archuleta. They deserve justice, and we won't stop covering this until someone is held accountable.